Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we've talked a lot about why furries end up finding a home in this weird, crazy community. And amongst all of the wonderful reasons, the reason why many furries stay being furries is due to their friends. One of the things that happen when you join such a niche community is that the chances of meeting someone that you vibe with are a lot higher than in other, more general communities. And the snowball effect of you meeting other friends of your friends and joining a community inside of the community happens a lot faster here. But that snowball doesn't just start on its own. In fact, as easy as it is to keep it rolling once it's going, getting it started can be one of the most difficult aspects of being a furry, especially if you're new. Heck, if I'm being honest, it took me about 2.5 years of trial and error before I finally started to find friends in the fandom myself. But I don't want it to take that long for you, so I want to talk about one of the strategies I use to get that snowball rolling, specifically at furry conventions. Now, in future videos, we'll discuss other strategies that don't involve traveling to cons, but I still believe that the chances of finding and keeping friends are highest in person at conventions. But just showing up and expecting people to instantly become your friend isn't how things work. It requires a few steps both at and after the con to potentially turn someone you meet into a friend for life. Let me explain. Let's start by giving a little bit of context to this idea. One of the things I have really come to appreciate the longer I've been in this fandom is the number of life lessons this fandom will teach you. And it's never someone giving you a lecture or directly telling you these lessons. A vast majority of them are learned through experience. One of the most common lessons that many people make in this fandom is how to make friends in the real world. You see, when growing up, the spaces that you were in were more or less decided for you. Whether it was school or extracurricular activities or even family events, the people you were surrounded with were decided without much of your input. So you had to deal with the people you got. In most cases, everyone else around you was in a similar situation. So everyone was presented with at least some opportunities to make friends with the people that they were around. Now, that doesn't always mean that happened. I'm sure many of us have experienced the downsides of this forced assimilation, where if we didn't fit in with the majority of the group, we were sometimes bullied for it. But I'm mainly referring to the structure of the people that were around you growing up. There was always one or many threads that the groups that you were around that you could use to get a conversation going quite quickly. That's not exactly the case in the fandom, and that actually catches a lot of people off guard. Now, I wouldn't say it's the polar opposite. The fandom, by definition, is created by everyone sharing an interest in anthropomorphic animals in some way. But that idea in and of itself is so generic that it's up for interpretation. So everyone coming in will attribute their interest to that idea in a different way. And in turn, this means that the people joining this fandom are all going to be from a variety of different backgrounds and experiences, which is great for the overall diversity of the fandom, but can make the effort needed to make and keep friends a little bit more than what you might be used to. This is why whenever I talk about making friends in the fandom, I put it in the context of employing some sort of plan or strategy for doing so. And I don't know, maybe this is just the way my brain works, but when I have a set of things that I can do that I can apply towards the people to make friends, that helps calm my social anxiety and makes me more open to giving it a try. Now, I also understand that there's no perfect plan to make friends. Otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video and everyone would just be doing that. And I also recognize that one plan doesn't fit all situations. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make many different versions of this topic about strategies to make friends. So be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to make sure you see those when they come out. But today, we're going to talk about a strategy that has been pretty successful for me at furry conventions specifically. And yes, I still do stand by the fact that the chances of making and keeping friends are a lot higher when interacting with people in person. It's not as easy as chatting online, but when you can see how someone is interacting with you face to face and they could do the same with you, it's just a lot easier to make that initial connection with someone and to remember it as well. There are a bunch of studies on this that I will link to in the description, but long story short, learning in-person social skills in this fandom will get you so much further with friends. But it's only one thing to be open with talking to people randomly. Having one-off conversations is amusing, but if you run into someone in person at a con that you think you could really vibe with, there are 3 things that you should try out with that person to help turn that initial acquaintanceship to a fully fledged friendship. This all starts with something quite simple, simply doing something with that person. Now, I'm not counting whatever the activity was that brought you together in person. I'm talking about some other activity that brings you two back together, preferably in a more direct setting. What's the point of doing this? Well, in theory, it'll give you an early sense of how much they want to make this friendship work as well. You might have to be a little bit more creative in choosing a time and a place that works, but conventions, or even the space outside of cons, will typically offer plenty of spaces to do just that. And good people will make time for you if you've really made a good first impression. But primarily, this second, more scheduled meetup gives you both a more focused opportunity to meet and know more about each other. Many times when you run into people at cons, it's in a busy environment where there are multiple people around that are all vying for you and your potential friends' attention. Which is by design. You want to try and meet as many people as possible in these spaces, but taking some more focused time to just be with one or a smaller group of people will actually allow you to meet and converse and joke with them while they're focused on just you and you're focused on just them. That's the bread and butter of starting a friendship. Really taking the time to get to know the other person and see if there are other things in common that you have, or go down a fun track of conversation together is how someone goes from someone you know of to someone you know. And if you take the initiative to set up this second, more direct opportunity to meet someone, the other person will know that the effort from your side is there as well. And the best part is that it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Getting food before or after most of the con activities, playing a game with them in the gaming area, heck, even just taking a couple laps around the convention space are great ways to just be with that person in a more focused environment. Now, even though that more focused meeting between you and your potential friend is what forms the first snowball of friendship, what gets it rolling and growing is the second step, following up after. In many ways, this step is actually both easier and more important than the first one. The entire point of following up after is for you and the other person you just hung out with to not forget about each other. And sure, I'll admit that was a little hyperbolic, but any friendship requires continual effort from both sides to support it. And doing something fun and not contacting each other after it won't create the foundation needed for a friendship to last. And it's pretty simple. Just reaching back out to the person you just hung out with to express your appreciation for them and their time can really make the difference in whether you talk to that person ever again or not. All it takes is a quick message saying thank you for hanging out and that you hope to do it again sometime soon. And that shouldn't be taken lightly, as that's the last piece of this strategy of not just making a new friend, but maintaining that friendship over time. Now, if you really want to make a friendship last, you're basically going to take those first two steps and repeat them as much as you can. Now, they don't have to be exact copies of each other. In fact, I actually suggest mixing things up with the activities that you do with your friends. And in many cases, a con might be one of the few times you'll actually be able to see each other in person anyway. And unless they're close to you or got it like that, traveling great distances for someone you just met isn't probably the best thing to do financially. But that doesn't mean all communication has to stop between you and your potential new friend. Keeping up with them to the best of your ability will help keep that connection between you two alive and well. This could go for activities as well. Maybe you play a video game together, voice chat every now and then, or hang out virtually in a game like VR chat. No matter what you decide to do, the main goal is to keep each other as part of your lives as much as possible, which allows you to keep learning about each other and hopefully appreciating each other's company, and over time, becoming friends pretty naturally. Now, even though I've framed most of these steps as things that you should do, I do want to emphasize here that friendships are not one-way streets. There should be a balance between you and the other person in reaching out, catching up, and even scheduling things to do with each other. If you feel like things are getting a little one-sided in either direction, then maybe this individual isn't the right person at the right time. And guess what? That's okay. You're not going to be friends with absolutely everyone. In fact, it's not uncommon to do all of these things with multiple different people and not find some friends right away. Again, my trial and error period was about 2 years before I found the friends that I have in this fandom. But I still don't want to de-emphasize the work that it takes to make friends, especially in this fandom. And at least some amount of effort is going to be required to establish and keep those connections in this fandom. But the great thing is that even if it takes you something like 2 years, it is so worth the time and effort to make friends in this community. This fandom is filled with such a wealth of fun, friendly, and simply awesome people. You just have to go out and find them. And if you find someone that you click with early on, set up a small get-together with them, follow up afterward, and try to keep that cycle going for as long as you can. Eventually, you might find what many people come to this fandom for in the first place, some of the best friends you'll ever meet in your entire life. Alright, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one, but until then, stay wild out there. Peace.